Brother, are you all right?
No, I am not all right. I just shared a bottle of Kanar with Damar. That rhymes.
You're drunk.
Of course I'm drunk.
There we go. Good evening, everybody. Holy hell, has it been a start to the evening. Shocking, 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 I know. But we are here. We're actually going to have a fun topic this week. As people can see, we have the diaper. Fuck! That's where my head's at right now. The Dapper Dino.
Did you join Team SFT recently? Sounds like it.
I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get into it right now.
Okay.
So, and we have the glorious return of the BM Furball after his glorious travels across, well, places he can't tell us.
Oh, God, so much fucking travel, and it's not going to stop until, they're planning all the travels that aren't going to happen.
So what you're saying is, don't expect much travel post-December. All right, then.
Well, not for the current person I'm traveling with. Maybe for their replacement.
We'll get into that a bit later. And we have, as always, Jay Brown. How are you doing tonight, good sir?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Just laughing at Furball.
Yeah, Furball's not the only one worthy of being laughed at tonight. That's what we're here to talk about. Although, is it laughter or anger that gets someone put onto this list?
Usually anger for me, but I can see both.
So, for those who haven't been able to tell, we are going to delve into a topic that was actually suggested by our very own Geostraber. Who is the worst character in all of Star Trek?
There's a lot to choose from on that list.
Oh, yeah. And for those who have actually taken the time to look at some of the names on the thumbnail, those are just the common recurring names, no matter the source you go to who actually publish a list for anywhere from the top 10 to top 15 characters actually... fuck you, Red. You can hang on a second. Who actually show up on the list of hated characters within Trek.
Oh, have I got a quote for you on that one, Jared? I shared it to Furball in our DM group on Discord.
Oh, well, that will have to wait just one.
So I think one thing that's interesting is just thinking about what makes a character a bad character. And I think there's a few different things. There's $5 from Bent Hovind, who is my co-host for Kent with Bent, and is also going to be on my off-topic channel today at 8 Eastern, where we're going to do some Star Trek role-playing game. So that'll be fun. He says it's Alexander
at the end of that, not just Star Trek role-playing, because that's a totally different kink.
Hey, you know what? Don't kink shame the Star Trek role players out there. It's fine. And he says it's Alexander Rozhenko, and it's not close.
That argument could be made.
All right.
Yeah, I'm really not a big fan of Alexander as a character. He's just annoying and boring.
Not just annoying and boring, but there is going to be a common thread here. All of the characters that are in the running for worst character, I would put it to poor writing and utilization.
Well, I think one thing is, so we're aware of the characters that were on the thumbnail, but is there any that people think should be added to the running? So I think Alexander should be added to the running.
Well, we do have a $5 super chat from Bent Hovind, no relation. It's Alexander Rozhenko, and it's not close. While I agree that Alexander is in the running, you might be surprised at some of the other nominations.
Well, does anyone here have any other additions besides Alexander that wasn't on the thumbnail?
So you're kind of going down that route. What does it take to get on the list? What is a bad character? Some of the ones that for me that are bad characters aren't even necessarily the ones that are a bad written character. the ones that I don't believe you as a human being. You know, the how it's come off to me. I mean, even if the character is written well, if there are some actors that just, to me, butcher it, and it pains me. It pains me so much to say it, that as strong of a character as Benjamin Sisko is, I am not a fan of Avery Brooks playing him.
No,
I don't like the acting of it. I don't believe the acting of it. It seems so superficial.
I feel like you'd probably be in a minority there.
Yeah,
and I might.
Wow. Well, I will say there are moments where Brooks's acting was subpar given the situation. Like, well, every Trek series has issues the first season. Brooks's portrayal of Sisko through the majority of season 1, definitely not the best. But beyond that, the main glaring one I would give him was the issue with Eddington, and when he was in the 50s and in the insane asylum towards the end of actually that was beginning and end of season 7. Those little offshoots, yeah, give him criticism. But beyond that, that actually was not what I was expecting.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know why it is. It's just I don't feel it.
But
the first or second Harry Kim, I love that part.
Yeah. Well, here's my addition.
What about the third Harry Kim from the Class Y planet? Because there were 3 Harry Kims. Remember that one?
Oh yeah. Well, and if you really want to get into it, 4 with the time traveling one with him and Chakotay on the Delta Flyer.
God damn, Harry. Get a promotion already.
But my addition actually does come from Voyager.
Ooh.
Q Jr.
Yeah, he was pretty cringeworthy once he stopped being a little baby. And Auntie Catherine had to babysit. But my addition is going to be someone I don't think anyone here is even going to be able to identify when I give the name.
Well, before we get to that then, Jay, do you have anyone that you would add on?
For worst character in Star Trek?
That was not on the thumbnail.
That was not on the thumbnail. Let me see. Let me remember who was on the thumbnail.
On the thumbnail, we have Guinan, Sybok, Lwaxana, Mayweather, Ruafo, Barkley, Esri, Kess, Neelix, Wesley, B'Elanna, Jake Sisko, Keiko, Nurse Chapel, and Dr. Pulaski.
Oh, you didn't have hold on. I need to make sure I say the name correctly here. Where is he? John Harrison.
Kelvin timeline doesn't count.
I mean, really with Harrison or Khan 2.0, it's poor writing and basically trying to retcon a character that could not have technically been retconned by the Kelvin timeline per se. I mean, you could because where does the timeline go backwards is really where you need to figure that out.
Oh, don't even try to think about the time travel physics of the Kelvin timeline. It's already bad enough in regular Star Trek. And J.J. Abrams does not give a damn about logic or how space works or any of these things.
All right.
But there's a lot of flares.
So he can also run in 12 parsecs.
So Anamorphic Mind does have a good question, and I'm going to say, don't spoil it, sir. He asked, do characters from the Star Trek shorts count?
Oh, I could think of a couple there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could think of some. Yeah, but I prefer not to talk about Discovery and short treks. But
I was trying to avoid Discovery with my nomination, but when you have a glaring example like my nomination is going to be, you kind of have to include them because, unfortunately, it is part of the greater Star Trek canon.
Hold on. Brainery's got the best one that's not on there.
Lens flare.
Lens flare.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to see if anyone even knows who my character is, because my character, who I think is one of the worst characters in all of Star Trek, is Lieutenant Marla McGivers.
Oh, yes.
Oh, God. I know the name. Remind me.
Wait.
I can see the face. I'm trying to place the appearance.
Can you see the face? What does she look like?
Oh, you've seen her. Specifically, an older version in season 2 of Star Trek.
Oh,
The Next
we've
Generation.
talked about this episode. Yes, that character. Yes.
Who is it? What does she do?
She's a historian.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one that.
All right,
fell
Jay Brown
for-
definitely knows.
Yeah, I just pulled it up.
It's
Oh,
cool.
okay.
Right, I'm cheating.
Khan's
I'm
wife.
cheating.
Khan's
Yeah.
wife.
Yes, his new wife or his girlfriend or what do you want to say? And mostly because like at first you don't think she knows exactly who he is, but then it turns out she knew all along, and it's like, I'm sorry, you fell in love with Mega Hitler?
Yeah, I mean,
What?
her character
Why?
was so poorly written in it, and it's not like Khan was even that. Unless she was totally drunk on getting the hots for someone who had power or would have power, there's no logic behind any of her decision making.
Nope. And she didn't have a character arc.
No,
She just
she
started
was
out.
there.
Yeah. She was just there to be someone who betrayed the ship because the plot needed it. There was she didn't have a character arc. She didn't change her motivations. She just decided, oh, hey, I really, really have the hots for Mega Hitler, and we're just going to go with it. And it's just like, okay, I guess. That's really stupid, but not that it's a bad episode, but her character specifically, I find to be one of the worst characters in all of Star Trek. Not just because what she does is obviously just like, what is wrong with you? But also because there's no character arc. She's a boringly written character. There's just nothing redeeming about that character as far as I can tell.
We covered that episode a while back, and I remember that we really went after Marla and
she's
how
she's
shitty
the
the character she was.
She's terrible. And so I was trying to think, like, what is actually one of the worst characters? Because everyone, pulls out, like, Wesley and things. But the things are that I don't necessarily think that, say, Wesley or Neelix are the worst characters. They're just the ones people think of because you see them a lot, right? Neelix is in almost every episode.
Nerves.
Right, but the thing is, taken as a character, is Neelix a worse character than Marla McGivers? No, not at all. And so that was where I was approaching this from. Was it doesn't matter if we see them a lot, because like if Alexander had been in only one episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, he would have been like, oh, okay, that was that weird little kid, but like whatever, and no one would care.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why my one of my top picks is Marla McGivers, because like if we had like another, like we follow Khan and like Star Trek comes back, which as was actually pointed out somewhat amusingly in Lower Decks, Starfleet never seems to return to any of the planets that they've tried to fix ever. So but yeah, if we ignore that factor that a lot of these characters are annoying because they're not great, but they occur a lot. Oh, yep, and there's Lieutenant Marla McGivers.
Yep.
I still think she is one of the worst written, as well as just one of the worst people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, while I will give McGivers the edge over my nomination, but so what comes to mind when I say The Trouble with Edward? And yes, it is a short track.
Oh, is that the one about the guy who genetically creates tribbles somehow, even though that makes no sense at all?
No, it was the guy who made tribbles worse.
Oh,
I've never seen that one.
Oh, that's right. He made them magical because they were multiplying without needing to eat.
Yes.
Yeah, that was.
But
can I just say the worst character in Star Trek is whoever wrote that short trek?
Well, here's the thing. He's not my nomination.
It's his captain, because she's even worse.
Yeah, Lucero.
Yeah. The worst captain in all of Starfleet?
Ooh.
Yeah. So, here, okay, quick rant here. First of all, Starfleet apparently encounters tribbles for the first time in The Trouble with Tribbles, because no one knows what they are, right? Cyrano Jones has just found this interesting, cute, charismatic species somewhere. Not sure where. Maybe he went to the homeworld. I don't know. And Lynn Lucero, terrible. Okay, so fair enough. But now they're like, oh no, Starfleet already knew about tribbles. And it's like, okay, well, even if they were classified for some stupid reason, because apparently Starfleet likes to classify things that everyone should know about and be warned about. then why didn't Kirk know, or why didn't he have access to that? You're telling me that the captain of the flagship of the entire Starfleet can't access tribbles?
Well, let's put it this way. Kirk gets some fallibility there because, well, he's only human. But why wouldn't Spock mention something about it?
Yeah. And so, and then, of course, the whole point with tribbles was, okay, they breed fast, but they needed food because they weren't magical. They couldn't create new tribbles without the actual biomass to do so. You stop feeding them, they stop breeding. Or McCoy says it in Trouble with Tribbles. But now, apparently, they don't need anything. They can just swallow enough air, I guess, and then pop out another tribble. And so the ship essentially explodes in that short trek with tribbles. That's impossible.
Mm-hmm. That violates so many laws of physics.
Right. It just makes no sense. And so in order to get a quick little laugh, we're now introducing into what's supposed to be a canonical thing in Star Trek, magic tribbles before tribbles were discovered. And also, two of the worst characters have ever been in Star Wars, because Lucero here is just a mean-spirited asshole with no redeeming qualities, and her science officer that genetically engineers tribbles for no reason is just a buffoon.
Just a dumbass.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it. It's H. John Benjamin. That's sort of his shtick. But, like, you could have written an interesting story about genetic engineering and had it be humorous and not have it violate Star Trek canon and not have it be full of people that everyone should hate. Well, you could do that. But no. Instead, Star Trek Discovery, we're going to make sure everyone hates it, because that's how you make money.
Well, talking about breaking canon, Anamorphic Mind brings up another interesting point with the tribbles. What about the tribble that showed up in Into Darkness? And I'll be honest, I have less of a problem with that because, one,
yeah, me too.
It happened later in the timeline. Two, it was a completely alternate timeline that they had already established from the get-go. So you get a lot more latitude when you do that.
Yeah, I agree. And that one actually didn't really bother me at all, because once you get the Narada coming back, right, in time, essentially every place any ship goes from that point on is going to become increasingly different from what happened in the prime timeline, right?
Yep.
That's why it's also even why all the ships look different. So, for instance, Starfleet now realizes that there's some big threat out there. They're not exactly sure what it is, but it blew up one of their great ships. So now when it comes time to design the Constitution class, they don't design the original timeline Constitution class with, like a few hundred people on it. They make something that is, rivaling the later Prime Galaxy class in size and armament, because they feel like they have bigger threats out there. Well, I also mind the J.J. Abrams verse Klingons a lot less than I mind the discovered Klingons.
Yeah, again, because you get changes that are less offensive because they've already established it's a new timeline, it's a different view of it. So it's not a mirror universe, but it's not the established prime timeline.
Yeah. Now, which is why they did that.
I would also, I would point out that when the Narada shows back up in the past, the ships are already different. Look at the Kelvin. But I would explain that with the JJ verse and Enterprise having a connection. Because what happened in Enterprise that would make major problems with TNG? The presence of the Borg. That would scare the hell out of Starfleet to where they're already going towards a stronger, beefier fleet at the time of the 2009 movie and the Kelvin verse already.
Yeah. Well, so was the Kelvin a ship that... Did we see it in the original series?
In the original series, no. The Kelvin was a new design based off of the Saladin class from... what was the name of the game?
Oh, the FASA Star Trek?
Yeah, the FASA stuff.
So here's what I would go with. Like, while the design aesthetic looks more like the redesigned Enterprise from the Kelvin timeline, since we don't actually have a previously canon Kelvin, you can just say that's what it always looked like. don't actually have to have a difference there. We can just say, this always look like that. We just because the thing is like if you watch the original series, we only see a very small number of classes of Starfleet vessels, but you get the feeling there must have been more of them out there.
Yeah,
maybe they just didn't all look the same.
Well, but here is something that later Trek established, and Gene did not have a problem with retroactively making it part of the rest of the canon too. When they have a mainline cruiser, your similar time frame support craft follow design aesthetics. So look at the Miranda and the refit Constitution. You were going to have a similar thing with the original design of the Constitution, sharing saucer section and nacelles with other similar class ships at the time. And that's where the Kelvin has an issue. One, because, well, it's only one nacelle, and that wasn't a thing until FASFA to begin with. And you also have the visual aesthetic difference between what followed on, if it was actually in the prime timeline where it was such an outlier, like the Discovery and the Crossfield.
Yeah, but also, here's one thing. So at the Battle of Sector 001, in the wreckage, there's a Constitution class.
Yep.
Maybe this is just a relic from a previous period in Starfleet history that's just still in service, where the design aesthetic was a bit different.
But if you compare the Kelvin to the Enterprise that they show later in the movie,
yeah,
same
it looks
nacelles,
similar.
They look very similar in aesthetic.
Right, but we could just say they decided to go back to an older aesthetic while beefing everything up.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, we don't have to there are reasonable ways to make it not a contradiction. I will admit, all of them are stretching it, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of them are stretching it. And of course, the real reason is because JJ decided to visually reboot the whole thing, which I'm not a huge fan of, honestly, but there are ways to come out that and say, okay, we can still make sense of it. And it's sort of, doing the sort of, I guess, the apologetics thing where it's like, you have to twist and turn, and this isn't the most likely interpretation of what's going on. However, I prefer to default to options that preserve canon reasonably well, which is one of the reasons why even that little, I'm going to say that's a relatively little gaffe there, that the USS Kelvin doesn't look like what you would expect for a Starfleet ship of that time, based on the original series. I consider that much less of a problem than, say, things like spore drives or genetically engineering tribbles before anyone discovered tribbles.
Can we mark the spore drive as a character of its own and stab it to death right here?
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, because if we can claim that the spore drive itself is a character and on the dartboard of things to choose from, let's take it out into the woods, beat it to death, rip off all of its clothing and skin, and bury it up to its neck.
Well, instead of just tech, why not just do ships as characters as well? Because when you look at it, oftentimes the ships are treated as characters themselves. Look at the Enterprise, Look at the Defiant, look at Deep Space Nine. Your main hero ships, even if they're only a one-off single appearance in an episode, like the Equinox, they still are part of it. They are part of the story in some way, shape, or form.
All right. And you know what my worst hero ship is then? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to open it up to all ships, not just hero ships.
Oh, okay, fair.
And I would nominate the Jaeger class.
I mean, it's just ugly. That's all there is to it. I mean, it's just ugly.
But, there's a thing for kit bashing, but with the extent they did it with that one...
It's literally just a Maquis Raider with a saucer section from
the Intrepid class.
Yeah, the Intrepid class. But here's actually what I'm going to say. It's actually Voyager. Now, I know Voyager looks cool and it's supposed to be super high tech, but hear me out, right? According to the descriptions we're given in the show, the Intrepid class is supposed to be outfitted for long-range scientific and scouting missions far away from support lines. However, almost immediately in season 1, they're like, We're running out of fuel and power for the replicators, and there's coffee in that nebula. Almost immediately. So what was all of this long range without support stuff? Plus, I don't care how fast bioneural gel packs are. Apparently, they get sick all the time, which is a thing that can happen. I'll take isolinear chips over, oh, I'm sorry, the ship caught a cold. And it's like, what? No, the ship is sick.
Well,
do we need the doctor to come down?
Well, Dapper, the thing with all those extra supplies and advanced long-range facilities and everything, they're due to arrive on Tuesday.
Yeah,
I was about to ask the same thing.
Oh God, Jared, now you just made me have to go find that clip and cut it out for you.
Okay, so I'll also point out how stupid that is, because it's like, oh, we need you to go hunt down the Maquis in some dangerous area full of storms. It's like, and so you send the ship that's not finished. Like, why don't you just send the Defiant?
It's
because plot has to happen.
Well, because plot, and also it is not uncommon for a ship to be sent out in less than ideal conditions.
For a shakedown cruise or like a survey of some planet or something, not to go hunt down Maquis raiders in a highly dangerous area of space.
No, even in an oh shit situation, the U.S. Navy itself, two of us here have seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all three of us have. I'm willing to say you've seen it too.
This isn't the U.S. Navy in some like, oh hey, we need to hurry up and support the carrier strike group because they're undermanned because some craziness happened. This is like, oh hey, you know how we have this whole space station full of runabouts and a Defiant, and we've also been fighting a war near here, which so we got dozens and dozens of ships, and there's Klingon ships here hanging out. There's even Romulan warbirds that could help us out. No, we're gonna pull a ship out of assembly, basically. It's still basically in assembly, and we're like, hey, go chase down some Maquis.
If I remember the timing right, Voyager started before the outright hostilities with the Dominion, but while the Klingons were doing their fuckery. So I can kind of see why they wouldn't want to send the Defiant off on that goose chase. But yeah, they had other options. They had plenty of other options.
With the Intrepid class, I'd also like to know, and I haven't looked into the actual schematics or the technical manuals of it, but what is the purpose for the rotator, the
up and down pylons?
The nacelles. Well, what is the purpose of that?
Furball, do you remember the episode in TNG where you had those two crazy scientists set off a device on a shuttlecraft and it made it not quite impossible, but damn near limited to travel faster than warp 4 in the region of space that they were in? Yeah, so there was an actual, call it ecological effects, to where the pylons changed position to manipulate the actual shape of the warp bubble to minimize and mitigate damage to subspace as it was going at velocity higher than warp 5.
Basically, Star Trek tried to say that warp drive was hurting the space environment because apparently it's space pollution or something.
But we never saw it go to warp without the nacelles up, though.
No, that's the thing. The ship was designed that at warp, it changed its geometry to minimize those effects that were established in that TNG episode.
So it adjusts as you're going through different warp, but we never saw them in any configuration other than 0 or 1.
Look, I'm not going to say that it makes a whole lot of sense, but here's the thing. The showrunners thought it would be cool to have warp nacelles that change position, and that was the justification they gave it.
Yeah.
like a spinning disc in Spore Drive.
Yeah, the spinning disc is even stupider.
Yeah, I would say the pizza cutter was worse.
I actually don't mind the cutouts. I mind the spinning. What is spinning?
No, that's what I mean. The actual spinning. The actual pizza cutter effect.
Oh, yeah, that is actually... Yeah, so my thing there is, like, is it just the outer hull? Because no one seems to be getting dizzy. Like, what is going on physically on that ship when that's happening?
They never described it, what's happening internally, or even discussed the mechanics of what parts of the ship. Because if you've got a ship that large that has that big of a disc that's rotating as a key component to its travel, You'd think that would be very delicate, especially in battle. That would be destroyed immediately, and the spore drive is rendered unusable.
Yeah. Also, you're going to have to vacuum seal that all the way around. That is so many single point failures for your entire ship.
There is no way that would get through one engagement without completely making the spore drive inop and having to go back to space dock. Impossible.
But don't forget, the Discovery was critical to the Federation beating the Klingons in the war.
In that extra war that didn't really happen.
What it is they fucked up the 4 Years' War.
Yeah, basically.
With the whole concept of the spore drive, I mean, you could almost put it on the level of it is a ship version of a Mary Sue.
I mean, basically. And the thing is, it's like, oh, we can go literally anywhere in the universe. Why don't you just take everyone and fuck off to the next galaxy? Like, why do you even deal with the Klingons? You can literally evacuate every single Federation citizen to a new galaxy. Just install these on all your ships. You don't even have to worry about it. You can just leave. Heck, you can just spore drive over, the first city on Kronos, orbital bombard it, leave, do that on every single Klingon city, and guess what?
Why do that? Why not make a giant cargo ship with a spore drive, materialize over Kronos, beam everyone up, and then take them to the far side of the galaxy and beam them into space?
Yeah. Or just beam them into space right there. It's not like in orbit of Kronos is going to let them survive.
All you got to do is be able to get there and get out quick so you don't get shot down. And why destroy their planet? I want to use your planet. I just need to get rid of the people.
And the answer is because it's flashy, and the people running Discovery don't care about making sense or what makes sense in terms of in-universe for Star Wars or Star Trek. Sorry. Goodness. They just don't care. It's a cool spectacle to watch a ship spin around and like with the pizza cutter and then flip over for some reason and then disappear in a cloud of something and then reappear and fire a photon torpedo and then keep doing that. Like, it looks cool. And I would bet visually it's an interesting set of special effects things. But the problem is that people who like Star Trek typically aren't here for flashy special effects.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No.
When you get nothing but flashy special effects, that's when you turn off the people that have been following it for decades.
Right. Well, that's why it has a 54% on Rotten Tomatoes for audience score. I mean, honestly, that's why. Yeah, the people who sit around and like watch Star Trek, like that's one of their default activities. Is like, oh hey, I got some free time. Let's flip on some Star Trek. These are the kinds of people who like things like exploration, and they even many times like sort of the scientific mystery things or the political episodes. And sure, every once in a while it's cool to get into a space fight. But if you want space fights, there's a different franchise. You may have heard of it. It's called Star Wars, and it's got lots of great space fights. Have fun. And look, I can't say I've liked everything from Star Wars, but overall, I like a lot of Star Wars material because it's got really cool space fights, and I'm not here to think about like social issues and deep moral quandaries and whatnot, right?
You're watching it to turn your brain off, whereas Trek, you kind of need to have your brain turned on to actually understand what's going on and get the full enjoyment of it.
Side story for just a quick second, still Trek related, but I've got a VR headset, and there's a game, if anybody else is a game, what you'd call it, called Big Screen. That's basically a movie theater type thing, and you can do it in your living room, in a theater, in a bunch of different places. They have their own channels that you can just sit there and watch with other people. They've got a Bob Ross channel, they've got a Mystery Science Theater channel, which is fucking perfect. They have a Star Trek channel.
Nice.
That all it airs is Star Trek, and you can go in there.
That out.
And it is in a theater that is in a spaceship, so it looks like there's stars outside. You're like in the back of a spaceship. It's pretty epic.
Nice.
And last week I was just dicking around. I was going to be on the VR for like 5-10 minutes. I go into Big Screen just to see what's going on. I go into Star Trek. And it is 1 minute into The Measure of a Man.
Ooh, nice. Good episode.
All right, I'm sitting here for an hour.
Yeah. There's never a reason to wait. So does that make? Oh goodness, what's that guy's name from Measure of Man? Now I'm blanking on his name.
Oh,
they dragged him out for Picard for some reason.
Yeah.
John Maddox.
Maddox.
Bruce Maddox.
Maddox.
John Maddox is a much different, even worse character, but he's not in Star Trek, so we won't talk about that. Yeah, Bruce Maddox is. What about him? I don't think he's a particularly good character, but I don't think he's terribly bad either.
Very middle of the road.
Yeah.
His starting point in Measure of a Man is understandable. He does have a little bit of a shift in that instead of wanting to just dissect data, he accepts, okay, let's just go with the communication route and literally pick his brain that way like you would another sentient living being. So you get that bit of a change, but then Picard tried to fucking ruin him. But not so much him, the character, what he did and how it breaks more of the Trekverse and everything associated with it.
Okay, what about his future ex who murders him? Is she the worst?
I
don't remember.
I would put her as top 3.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad. It is really fucking sad that right now our top 3 are all women.
God, don't make me add another one. And this is so 2 sides to this coin. Again, I'm going to go back to my original argument of there's something about the acting, not necessarily the actor, but just the non-believability of it is where it really, really bothers me. And I am not a fan of the character Michael Burnham. The character. I'm not a fan of her. I think that is the whole, yeah, everything around her is just not the greatest, but the way that Sonequa Martin Green plays that character, I don't like it. And I loved her in The Walking Dead. She nailed that character, but
nothing against the actress.
There is something about the way she plays Michael Burnham that just bugs me.
Well,
I don't find it a believable.
It's very bipolar. I would say
yes.
Very bipolar. When you look at season 1 and a bulk of season 2, she's trying way too hard to be overly Vulcan for someone who's a human. And then season 3, episode 1, she goes full fucking manic with that laughter. Why?
I haven't seen season 3 yet.
Can we stop having so much crying on Star Trek? Do we need someone to break down crying in like every episode?
Or how about the 20th
goodness.
How about the 20th and 21st century profanity?
Yeah, so there's a whole scene about it in Star Trek 4 where Spock is just confused by the cursing.
The colorful language.
The colorful metaphors.
And then, no, we're just going to drop F-bombs in Star Trek now. And I'm just like, why?
See, that's why I think that Firefly nailed it. All their swears were in Chinese.
This is true.
That's
actually part of why Joss Whedon picked that language.
Well, so one of the things, though, is like a theme in a lot of Star Trek. And granted, it was the strongest when Gene Roddenberry was in charge, but it has always been a theme, is that humanity in Star Trek has come a long way, right? And they're culturally advanced. And one of the things that comes with that is that they don't feel the need usually to add in useless words just to tell you that they're angry or something like that. And that's one of the reasons why the use of cursing has kind of gone down among humans in into the Federation. And it's just like, I don't get that feeling when I watch Picard or Discovery. It's just like, these aren't people who hold themselves to high ideals. They're really not. I mean, sure, they might be like, anti-war, but that's not exactly some kind of amazing advancement. I mean, there are plenty of people who are anti-war right now.
But yeah, the overall philosophical stance of the characters may be anti-war, but not as altruistic as the original series was intended to be.
Also, I really didn't need to see Icheb be mercy killed.
Yeah. Other than shock value, what the hell was the point there?
It motivated 7 of 9 to kill her ex, I guess. Which, also, 7 was established as pretty darn straight.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, she at one point, if I remember correctly, there was actually a scene where she expressed, well, not revulsion, but significant amounts of disinterest in women romantically.
Well, so it's funny that that comes up because in the car not too long ago with the wife, we were actually starting to talk about the topic for tonight, and I mentioned that well, let's go with one of the names that are on the thumbnail, Kess. Kess is on the list because the way her character was handled and what it was intended to be completely missed the mark, that they replaced Kess with 7 of 9 for the sheer point of enticing the horny little teenager to keep watching. And then wait. And then they gave 7 of 9 a better character arc and actual better writing.
Right, that's the other thing, is that she's actually a good character in Voyager. She's actually one of the better characters in that whole show. I mean, she's obviously way better than Chakotay.
I didn't have a big issue with Kess throughout the series. I detested the way they wrote her off. But as a character, I was much more accepting of her as a character because she was childlike, young, and I was okay with that. But the way she was written off, and yeah, that bugged me. Just, becoming, I don't know, what do we even call what she became?
My problem with Kess as a character before her write-off, because then they actually did some more interesting things with her later, like during like the setup to the Year of Hell, and then when she's, like that was some interesting stuff. But my thing was she had sort of like the Deanna Troi syndrome. Because one of the problems with Deanna Troi is that while eventually they started to use her character better, at first it was just sort of like she was the person who gave like meaningless exposition that we didn't even need to have in the first place. Like, I'm sensing they're not trustworthy, Captain. It's like, yeah, okay, they're Ferengi, thanks. Like, or I'm sensing no hostile intent. It's like, okay.
Oh, she was basically got the chick from Galaxy Quest that just repeated everything the computer said.
Yeah, basically. Well, so Kess had some of that same problem where it was just like she would show up and she'd be like, "Oh, I'm sensing something about this planet," and then be like, "Well, let's go investigate." And then some people fall through a time hole, but like you could have just come up with some less stupid reason to investigate the planet other than Kess has a feeling.
Well, Globermont does hit part of it. She recalled the actress wanting off the show. It wasn't so much just the actress that wanted off the show. The actress who actually played Kess had a troubled life away from set. And
yes.
To put it mildly. And that factored in.
She kind of fell apart even after the show. Like, it was not not a good time. She's been in and out of jail and rehab and she's had a pretty rough life. A lot of that being her own fault, but what are you gonna do? So,
yeah, as LRJ88 says, she had issues.
Accurate. Which, as far as I know, Jerry Ryan did not really. I mean, everyone has their own issues, but I mean, I don't think Jerry Ryan has been in and out of prison, so. Yeah. Or has come out screaming at police naked.
Yeah. Although, I have to say that of the characters in the thumbnail and that you guys have seen elsewhere on these worst character lists, I mean, we can agree that Wesley being there is just hands down a foregone conclusion, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually have Screen Rant's list right here, ready to go.
There are some good Wesley episodes. When they stopped making him just be the Deus Ex Machina character, Wesley started to become a better character. Like in the episode where he is hanging out with not Tom Paris, who is Tom Paris.
In fact, yes.
My headcanon is Tom Paris just changed his name to that guy's name. Or he changed it from that guy's name to Tom Paris.
Well, he went to Starfleet Academy under the pseudonym Locarno to try to avoid the stigma that comes with your father being an admiral.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that one too. All right. But yeah, in my head, it's just the same guy. Because why does Carno and Tom Paris have the exact same backstory but different names? Oh, it's to avoid paying the screenwriter for that episode royalties for every episode of Voyager. That's literally the only reason. Yeah. They're the same dude. I don't care.
Here's the typo I was talking about.
Oh God.
Jetsia. Meh.
You know, well, before we get to the reason why I was going there, there is another character. Actually, it was either on that list or another one that I can understand why some people wouldn't like this character, but I don't agree with them being in the running. Esri.
Is it Guinan? Oh, Esri?
Because
Esri was not on this list.
So is one of the other sites that I found her on. Because here's the thing, Esri gets a raw deal because she is constantly compared to Terry Farrell's portrayal of Jadzia.
Yeah, I agree. Esri's not a bad character. It's just that it's a downgrade.
Now, oddly, on Screen Rant's top 5, bottom 5. Oh, no, sorry. I'm reading this wrong. Jadzia is best.
Yeah.
And then the next one is a worst. So, yeah, Jadzia's on the top. If you watched just the Esri, you might not come away with the best, but if you directly compare, you just can't. I mean, yeah, it's
not fair to the character.
Unfair.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you're gotta go through, just like the Trill hosts have to go through
years of training.
Yeah, they have to understand that, you're going to be compared to your past lives.
Yeah.
We should also, as the audience, understand that she's going to be different than the person that was there before. She's not the same.
They had an entire episode dedicated to Jadzia confronting these past lives of the Dax symbiote. Yep. So how did people forget that was going to be an issue, especially when you're introduced to Esri? Yeah, there's the shock value, and then after the commercial break, she gives the actual history of, well, I was a non-joined Trill on the ship that was transporting the symbiote back. The symbiote took a turn for the worse and needed to be implanted. And by time we got back to Trill, the implantation had already gone so long that it would have risked killing the symbiote and definitely would have killed Esri to take out the Dax symbiote at that point. So they left it as is.
The whole thing makes sense. It really just comes down to Esri didn't have the time to become the character that Jadzia did. Jadzia, I mean, if you just watch like the first episode, like no one is a terribly wonderful character in the first episode of Deep Space Nine. You get a little bit of extra stuff out of the Sisko family because of the personal tragedy and tying it back to, the Battle of Sector 001 and all that stuff, right? Okay,
Wolf 359.
Oh yeah, it was Wolf 359. Sorry. So yeah, that's great. So that makes Sisko sort of the standout character for that episode, and to some extent Quark, because he also gets a little bit of like, I'm leaving, but then Sisko sort of like holds Nog Cat or ransom essentially, and like, okay, those two characters, they were sort of the standout was in that first episode. But basically, even if you go through the entire rest of the first season, Jadzia wasn't really a standout character for that first season, and that's essentially where we start out with Esri. And I mean, I don't think it would have been reasonable to go on for like 10 or 12 seasons for Deep Space Nine, because
where they ended it was a very fitting ending point for that series. And
but unfortunately, it means we don't get to really flesh out Esri, and as a result, she gets a bad guy.
I have noticed about Esri's storyline.
Doesn't arrive till Tuesday.
Her storyline will be here Tuesday, everybody. That is what we can expect. Tuesday.
Too bad the season finale's on Monday.
Yeah. Well, hang on, everyone. Make room. We have an even bigger nerd joining us now, supposedly.
Oh, goodness.
Allegedly.
Yeah, but one who can't whistle, so what's even the point? Hey, what's up, team?
I can't hear you guys. Hold on.
Oh, so we can talk shit about him. Now's the time to talk shit.
Get the comments in now, boys.
No, we should all start whistling.
I'm gonna fail.
Everyone just start whistling.
I'm failing on you guys too. Sorry.
God's Auditor, by the way, that is a horrible rendition of the Crate Dragon. Just in my opinion.
The one from
The Mandalorian. Don't get me wrong. I understand why they did it that way, and it would normally make sense, but it's such a callback to Tremors more than anything.
But Tremors was a great movie.
Well, Tremors 1, yes. Anything after that needs to be treated like the ET Atari game.
So look, I have sort of like a bad movie thing, and I have a certain fondness for the Tremors franchise just because. Well, first of all, Tremors 2 was also good. It wasn't Tremors, but it was good.
Okay. You can see the progression getting worse going through the line.
Hello.
Tremors. Oh, can you hear us?
Yes, I can finally hear you.
Oh, how it works.
How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. I took out my CPU to go upgrade, and I got all the way up to the store only to find out that they were out of stock. So I had to reinstall my old CPU back into my computer, and therefore it made me redo all of my inputs, and I still got a lot of shit to do. How's everybody doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
Doing well.
Yeah, it's been an interesting weekend so far. Apparently the end of the world isn't happening, everyone. We can put that off for another 4-ish years.
2 weeks, 3 weeks. Watch.
Oh, it's not over yet. Just because we think it's over doesn't mean it's over.
Yeah, it's not over yet.
Oh,
I'm talking about the social implications of this election. It's caused a lot of divide between this country. It sucks.
That's absolutely true. But team, who is the worst character on Star Trek, according to you?
The worst character on wow, there's a lot of really bad ones.
Yeah, there really are. Which is actually one of the things I appreciate about like the Star Trek fandom is that like
we acknowledge
very few Star Trek people are like, oh yeah, Star Trek is perfect. I'm like, no, Star Trek is not perfect.
Yeah,
like
right.
There's a lot of problems with Star Trek. It's just still fun anyway. Pointler.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Well, so my choice was Marlon McIvers.
You said Marlon McIvers?
Marla McIvers. Lieutenant Marla McIvers.
Marla. Okay. Well, like, are we... Okay, we're doing Star Trek. Are we doing actors or characters?
The characters. The characters themselves.
Okay. I've been doing both.
I honestly, I didn't like Q. I didn't like the way Q was portrayed in his role in the whole thing. I wish he had more of a role. You know, like I think it was just a bad character. They missed out on something else they could have extremely used in throughout the Star Trek lore, especially since it was on TNG, right? Was that Q was TNG or was that?
Oh, well, he showed up once in Deep Space Nine and several times in Voyager as well.
I think he actually showed up more
but he was introduced in TNG, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yes, Encounter at Far.
Unless Q is the Squire of Gothos.
It's Trelane, yeah. There is.
How do we know that's not Q? Yeah.
But yeah, I just felt like with Q, there could have been he could have played like the true God role of Star Trek. You know, like he is, like you said, he makes appearances in other ones, but I just think he's a bad character. They just missed out on the opportunity to make a really strong character.
Well, was he too playful for the powers that he has?
Well, is it he is actually a bad character, or was just an underutilized character?
That's what I mean by bad character. It's like they had the role. The role would have been a good role had they characterized Q to play that role better. Now, I think it's BM Furball, right? You asked me was he too joking? No, not at all. Because think about it like this: how many times do we, as kids or even young adults, even old adults, we see something that interests us and we manipulate it? Like, let's say we see a bug walking on the ground, we take a stick and kind of play with it a little bit, just for fun. To us, that's very childish, and maybe we're stooping down to lower levels to do that, but it is still entertaining to see how the lower organization.
How do you think his character could have been elevated, though?
Make him more of a god, into a god role. Like make him more of it. He had godlike powers, but he never played a godlike role.
Hold on, we got a comment from Jessica G out in the chat. The worst character not in Star Trek is Team Skeptic.
Oh, well, here's one of the counters though, because I think one of the best Q episodes, in fact, possibly my favorite Q episode, is Deja Q, where rather than making him more godlike, Q is literally a human in this episode.
Now, see, I'm okay with them doing stuff like that for gimmicks, but the overall character of Q could have been written into the lore a little bit better. Okay. I think he could have been like a Thor type, or not Thor, I'm sorry, Odin type character, where even though he could have his moments of humanity, he always had like a overwhelming presence of of control.
But the only issue doing that is that, in generalities, the Star Trek universe has never had an actual confirmed deity-like being, and I think they tried to. Each planet may have had their own deities, but none of them really had. There was no galactic deity in presence, and I think if you would have made Q an actual omnipresent deity, that may have violated one of the premier tenets that it started with.
Yeah, but how do we know that at a point in evolution, that Q would not have reached that type of evolutionary status? Like his species, his people would not have reached for what the members of the Star Trek community would have assumed to be immortality or omnipresence. Just because we believe him to be immortal or omnipresent doesn't mean he actually has to be, but he could play that role, the role of God or the role of Odin in the Star Trek lore. And I just felt like they missed an opportunity to make more of what he was.
Actually, this reminds me of one thing. I actually think that Star Trek suffers from an overabundance of godlike entities.
Star Trek
for Adonis, Trelane, the Q. I mean, yeah.
But none of them were galactic wide. They were never. They were always localized. Nowhere in the Star Trek realm was a everywhere deity.
Localized interest, but it seems like they could have had, or they seem to have like galactic wide power. For instance, when the Organians imposed the Organian peace treaty, it wasn't just on Organia that the weapons became inoperable. It was across the entire Federation and Klingon Empire, at least. No one could operate a weapon because it would burn them. In the entire Federation plus Klingon Empire.
Well, I also think that that Oprah Winfrey was pretty fucking pointless in Star Wars or Star Trek.
Yeah, Guinan is on the list on the thumbnail. But
I couldn't even remember. I couldn't even remember her name.
Yeah, guy. By the way, there's rumors that she might be in Star Trek again.
I'm sorry, not Oprah Winfrey. God damn it!
Goldberg.
I'm so Whoopi Goldberg.
That would have been hilarious. Having Oprah on Star Trek would have been epic.
Look! When you said
get a ship, and you get a ship, and you get a ship.
Yeah. Everybody, look under your chairs. That's right. You all get ships today. But that's as soon as you said, I think BM, you said it right. You go, it's not Oprah, and I was like, hold on. Did he say it's not Oprah? Who is it then? It is Oprah. Nope. No, it's Whoopi. Mm-hmm. Whoopi was a pretty Whoopi. That's what I'm saying. She was so fucking like unnecessary that she became just like. I remember her being there, but I don't even remember anything she was a part of that was important.
So, let's be honest. The reason that Whoopi Goldberg was in Star Trek was because she asked to be, and the producers were like, "That's probably the biggest name that we're ever going to get as a recurring."
Is that really how she got in?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Whoopi Goldberg.
It makes sense.
She was a big fan of Nichelle Nichols, who played Uhura in the original show. And so that was Nichelle Nichols essentially inspired her, according to her,
to get into acting.
Right, to get into acting. And so when she became a pretty big name, she realized, hey, you know what? I could probably just request to be on Star Trek, and they'd probably say yes. And that was true. That is in fact what happened. Yeah, they were like, you. Actually, at first they rejected because they thought it was a hoax, that it was someone pranking them, pretending to be Whoopi Goldberg. But then, they had an actual phone call with her, and she was like, "No, I'm not. This is the real Whoopi. I would actually like to be on Star Trek: The Next Generation, please." It's like, it's not a prank, I promise. And they were like, oh, okay. And so they wrote a character for her. And I don't think she's the worst character. She has some good episodes, like the bits
She's
with
on the list.
the bits with Mark Twain were fun.
Yeah.
Although most of the time she has sort of the
there.
Kess problem where she delivers a little bit of pointless, or not necessarily pointless, but sort of like ham-fisted exposition, like in yesterday's Enterprise, where she's like, something is wrong with the timeline.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you have magical timeline powers? Do all Elorians have magical timeline powers? What's going on?
They kind of built it in that they did the whole thing about being a race of listeners who gave people the heebie-jeebies. Yeah, the Elorian are actually an interesting fringe race that would be interesting to see actually fleshed out, but not by the current writers of Trek.
Oh god, no. Yeah, it could be interesting, but like that was a lot of her character. Although she did have some good bits, like when she her interactions with Ensign Ro were pretty good. Mm-hmm. Where she got Ensign Ro to open up and actually was a big part of getting her to come forward about this conspiracy with the Admiral and all that. So she had her good moments, but a lot of the times it was just sort of like she was just sort of like famous person wall dressing.
Yeah.
Hey, look, guys, we got a really famous person. We stuck her in 10 forward, which, by the way, why doesn't Star Trek Picard know where 10 forward is? It's called 10 forward for a reason. It has those windows for a reason. It's at the forwardmost part of the ship on deck 10.
Yep.
But nope. Suddenly, for some reason, it's just on the port side somewhere.
It's slightly offset.
Yeah, like, no, it's 10 forward for a reason. There's also a reason why the Starfield was always flying directly at the ship from those windows, but not from the other windows. Like, come on, guys. Although, you know what was offset? Was the original Enterprise bridge.
Yes, it was kicked at a 27-degree angle, if I remember right.
Just because the set designers for the bridge thought it would be more easier to get better camera angles if the turbo lift were off to the side. And the model designers did not get that memo.
Yeah, so the turbo lift was seen directly center line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, guys. Way to have that conversation.
But with that sort of ship and with their technology, it still works and kind of makes sense, though, because with the inertial dampeners and everything, you're not going to really be able to tell which direction the ship is actually moving if you're not actually at a window.
It's true, but the thing is, it's like, look at it from the point of like the person who's designing the bridge, right? Because for the most part, like you don't have like, what's your purpose in spinning it?
Yeah.
And the only thing you could think of is it's like, oh, it's so that a camera crew could get better shots if they were a camera crew. But in universe, there's no damn camera
reason.
crew.
Yeah, there's no reason for it to be like that, which is why actually with the refit they fixed it,
which is nice. But yeah, that was one of those.
How loud am I coming in? I'm sorry, I'm setting all my devices up, and I want to know: am I coming in too loud, or am I coming in regular volume? Sounds fine.
Regular volume, okay. But it definitely sounds like that super chat situation is wearing on you.
We're gonna put that out of our mind right now. Okay, we're gonna put that out of our mind, and we're just gonna try to do better the next time. Need to strengthen my voice a little bit.
Lemon tea and honey.
Team, if your voice is kind of weak because you sound a little bit sick, the true test for the mics and the volumes is to whistle. Hit us with it.
You funny son of a bitch. No. Of course. Well, give me a second to download a good whistle MP3 to play for you, and then I'll let your imagination run.
All right, but how about this? In terms of things that maybe aren't nameable characters, but are still exist as characters, what about the Species 8472? I mean, they had an interesting design and whatnot, but I always thought they didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yes and no. It was one of those that it almost seemed like they were too much of a MacGuffin. Like, I understand they're coming from a different... not sure if you would call it dimension or just a different parallel universe, the fluidic space. So you would expect things to be different, but for them to be that overpowered?
Yeah, why? And then the other thing was like they start doing things like they built a Starfleet like headquarter
Oh,
simulator.
the training facility. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like, I'm sorry, but if you know enough to make the Starfleet facility, then you have enough to know that Starfleet is very unlikely to cross the entire galaxy to get to where they know they can access fluidic space just to invade fluidic space for some reason. Yeah, like, how do you get to the point where you can make this without realizing that making it is stupid? I do not get it. But the other thing is, you could just say, oh, they were malevolent. Like, but they weren't invading the Milky Way until after the Borg decided to go mess with them.
Yeah, it was entirely retaliation, and that's why Janeway did what she did. And it's like, no, thanks for the help. We're going to damage you in a way that lets us get away.
Yeah, so I just feel like the writing for that sort of the arc of Species 8472, which I know not a character, but still, there were characters in the species. It was unsatisfying on multiple levels, even if I do like the design. Although I also do like the similarly designed Edotians who have made a comeback in New Trek, which I don't mind. So, because if you've seen the first season of Lower Decks, there's a bit where a couple characters end up on a medical transport. And the captain of the transport is the three-legged, three-armed Edotian, which is a species that was set up with
in the animated series.
And the animated series. So,
and Lower Decks is the animated series, right? I haven't watched
right
any
now.
of that.
Yeah.
I haven't watched any of that.
It's not the Star Trek that I want, but at least it seems to be Star Trek when I watch it. But
it's better than the movies.
I will give Lower Decks this. It's better than Discovery, and better than Picard.
Yep, I would also say
I don't watch Picard either, though.
I would say it's better than Insurrection or Nemesis as well.
Not Insurrection.
Yeah, Insurrection was actually. When was the last time you watched it, Dapper?
It's been a while.
Go watch it.
That's the thing. You rewatch it again. We did an episode on that about a month and a half ago, and it took all of us off guard that it's not as shitty as you remember. It is a good movie.
Can I tell you my one big nitpick, though, for Star Trek Insurrection?
What?
Why does the array that's going to collect all of the whatever on radiation have a self-destruct thing? Because the thing is, it's not like it has a warp core that you're going to blow up. Because originally, the self-destruct sequence for a starship was you overload the warp core and it breaches because it just can't contain energy anymore. Okay, but this thing, there's no reason to think.
Or you collapse the magnetic interlock on the antimatter and just naturally get a poof all over.
Right, like there were things where it's like, because the starship has to have this warp core with its powered by matter, antimatter, and whatever, you have a built-in mechanism that could destroy it, which you could just choose to do. Fair enough. But the thing is, it was never that like, oh, we have like bombs planted everywhere and they're all going to set off once we give the little code. Because that's just stupid. Why would you put bombs everywhere? But for that little that big satellite, I guess, that's collecting all the whatever radiation, to have a self-destruct, either it has a warp core, which there's no reason to think it does, because it's not supposed to warp anywhere. It's literally only supposed to stand there and collect the radiation. So the what even was that species called? But anyway,
the Sona.
Yeah, the Sona. So they can collect the radiation to live forever. Okay, great. That makes sense. So, but to have it have a self-destruct sequence means they must have just planted bombs all across it. Why would you do that? Why would you put bombs on the one thing that you need to live forever? Even if
let me ask the question. Let me ask the question. Was the self-destruct on a starship? Was it to keep the enemy from being able to use the starship against you, or was it to protect? So it wasn't to protect technology, because primary technology everybody shared the same, correct? So then it would be.
There was a little bit of both. So there was a little bit of both. Like, for instance, we know that, say, Romulan computers and Federation computers are probably on about the same level. But there's a bit where, in the Next Generation, where the crew of the Enterprise is helping to rescue a broken down Romulan ship, and the Romulans are like, we need a new computer core. And Worf is like, we shouldn't give them access to current computer cores because that might give them too much information about how to do, like, essentially electronic warfare. Although they didn't really phrase it that way. This is like the early 90s. And so, Riker's like, what if we give them a 30-year-old computer core? And then Worf's like, yeah, that should work. Okay. So there's a little bit of both. So even though the technology might be comparable, if you give the enemy actual examples of your functioning technology, that may give them an extra advantage in terms of finding like loopholes or ways to hack into it or things like that. But it was mostly that you don't want the enemy to just have your ship now and start, using it.
So the reason I asked that is because you like to hypothesize the reasoning behind having a self-destruct system in that array. You said the array was just a information gathering array, correct?
No, it was gathering
radiation. So what they were
radiation. But I'm saying they're gathering the information about the radiation in the system. Was that not the point of it?
No. So this injector assembly and collector is the collector itself. So what they found is the planet that the Baku lived on had these planetary rings that emitted a metagenic radiation that gave you essentially de facto immortality because it constantly replenished and kept fresh your DNA, so you weren't having the aging process like normal as soon as that would end up taking effect as you left the planet.
Yeah, around like 22 or something.
Yeah. So they'll hit like 20s, 30s, and effectively stop aging at that point.
God damn, I want to live there.
Right?
Does it go backwards?
Yeah, but yes,
No.
yes, actually,
Wait,
yes.
Geordi
got his eyes back. Worf started going through Klingon puberty again.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the
I
scars
agree.
from
Why
his
did
assimilation.
they have a self-destruct on it? It makes no sense.
Right. That's one of my big things. It's like not everything.
They're destroying their fountain of youth. Why would they do that?
They wouldn't. That's one of the things why I'm like, why is Picard setting this thing to self-destruct? What does that even mean? And then you see explosions ripple up the thing, which means they planted bombs on their own fountain of youth. They were like, hey,
why would they do that? Yeah, why would they? There's no logical consistent. That means an enemy could come in and activate the self-destruct against your will and blow up your.
Well, that's exactly what happened. That's literally what happened.
Well,
you see what I'm saying?
There was a bit more to it because there was the remote activation, but once the controls for the collector were removed from the bridge and rerouted, Picard had to go onto the collector to manually set it off in person.
Well, I mean, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it's clearly just to have a cool fight scene.
It was the rule of cool. Not to mention the Passover of the Enterprise going along with the explosion as it went to rescue Picard.
Yeah. It's look, I will accept that maybe there are redeeming qualities to Insurrection that I simply do not remember at this time, and that maybe looking back in terms of like not Insurrection, but Nemesis as well as like Discovery and Picard, maybe I will look on it more fondly if I watch it again soon, which I guess maybe I should.
Dapper, I would say that most likely, and I think this is what happened with me when I had the initial "this was a shitty movie," is for somehow mentally bleeding over my justifiable feel of of Nemesis into Insurrection. Mentally, you kind of gather the two movies together as two shitty movies. Well, and if you just sit down and just watch Insurrection, it does kind of grow on you, and the storyline to it is so much better.
It's an actual Trek. It's an actual Trek storyline. But here's another thing. I think a lot of people went into it, and I'll admit I was probably guilty of this too. Went into the initial viewings of it with the expectation of it being bad because it was an odd number movie.
Oh, that's fair. Oh, here's another thing that bothers me about it. So we have, I believe it was a two-parter. It's where Wesley Crusher decides that he's going to take a stand and not let the Native Americans who are living in what's now Cardassian space be forcibly removed by the Federation because it's wrong, and they've already had a history of that. When
he leaves with the Traveler,
yeah. With the Traveler, yeah, it's the same episode. Although I think, wasn't it a two-parter? I don't know, maybe it wasn't. But and we get this whole speech from Picard about how orders are orders, and once you become a Starfleet officer, you follow the orders even if you disagree with them, and you can have a guilty conscience later, but now you do your duty. damn it all, we're moving these people. And then they do. And it's like, okay. But now we have the same situation. The Federation is like, hey, we're going to beam these people into a giant holodeck. We're going to move them to a new planet where we've already set up the same thing. We're going to beam them back. And Picard's just like, nah, man, mutiny time. Let's get the purple space bazookas. This is not going to happen.
I will give it this. Picard learned from that episode in TNG.
Yes, he did.
But did he learn that he should defy Starfleet orders in order to do that? Because until the movies, Picard wasn't going around defying Starfleet orders. When
necessary. And that was the thing is, with the extra bits of how difficult it was to re-establish communication directly with Starfleet Command, that's why they split in the manner that they did in Insurrection. So there are in-movie, in-universe rationales that do justify the behavior. And this is where I say the writers of Insurrection actually utilized a teaching moment for the lead character, the major character in TNG from that episode. And hey, look, see, we haven't forgotten about this shit. Yes, there is this comparison to what happened here, but look, Picard's doing what he actually should have from the start.
I suppose we could say that, yeah, maybe that's a good, or it's a character arc where Picard learns that maybe orders aren't always the best thing. Okay. But I feel like there wasn't enough of a callback to that, and maybe part of that is just like a reluctance to do things like, use clips from the Star Trek show, which had a very different visual appearance than the movies, plus a different aspect ratio. Which, by the way, I don't like streaming platforms shrinking down, like cutting off the tops and bottoms of the frame just to give it a modern aspect ratio. Like, no.
No, show me it in its completion.
Unfortunately, guys, I have to get going because I have to set up for my next thing, where I will be streaming Star Trek Adventures, which is a tabletop role-playing game, on my off-topic channel. That will be in about 15 minutes. So,
hey, take care, man. It was good talking to you, Dapper.
Later,
Dapper. Talk to you in a minute.
Later, Dapper.
I think last time we talked was the debate that I did against Fight the Flat Earth.
Fight sucks. You win every time.
Speaking of debates, we're gonna have a debate to talk about on VTW following this too.
Nice. I'll talk to you guys later. I'm not saying go abandon VTW2, but if you want to put the Star Trek thing on in the background, I'm also going to have it up on playlists. So if you want to follow the adventures of a Klingon crew fighting for the glory of the Klingon Empire, check out Top Hats Off, my off-topic channel.
I'll be there. I stopped watching VTW like fucking 17 months ago, 18 months ago.
Asshole.
But back when it was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we are going to be taking a short break between this and VTW, so you will have about a half hour or two. Go ahead and watch Dapper Dino once his stream starts. So.
Oh shit, he left. He needs to share the link in the chat so we can definitely go watch it.
Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, we got people on that team.
I forgot the nerds. The nerds come here too.
Oh,
my fellow nerds.
We're fucking invading.
I know. Like people, I said something about nerds the other day, and people were like, "Oh, stop saying that about nerds." Like I'm like, you guys are fucking kidding, right? I'm a nerd too. What are you talking about? I'm self-deprecating. Leave me alone.
Oh, you'll just have to point to this to point that out. Now, we are getting to the point where we're wrapping up because I don't know about you fuckers, but I'm hungry. I need to get something.
Hey, Jared. I would like you to answer Icarus's question in the chat. Second to last thing that's just posted.
Are you normal sick or real sick? Well, are we talking mentally or what you're hearing verbally?
I think he's asking about he's asking about my voice. You have to go watch my last live stream.
Oh, God.
1 hour from the end, start it there.
Yes, watch the last hour because the bulk of it is just team going off, and it is epic. And so what, another 3-4 days before you're able to talk somewhat normal again?
Nah, man, fuck that. We're gonna do the same shit tomorrow night. Hold on, hold on. I got something for you. Look, I want to show you something. All right, I'm gonna let the 20 people that are watching right now. You guys are going to get the. Oh, let me go to the right thing. You guys are gonna get a sneak peek of next week's music. Here you go. Tell me you can hear that or no.
You can hear it.
Yeah. So that's my shit. Yeah. I'll be reading y'all's super chats out dramatically, energetically, taking it to the next level. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to start now. It didn't cut out just now, did it?
No.
Good. I got that part fixed. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, that was the only thing is you were so into it that you were kicking off the noise gate.
Oh, I know. Well, I have an AI noise right now that I'm using, an AI noise reducer. Excuse me. So I guess it assumed the intensity I was having was background noise, was like a herd of zombies, was like a fucking, Michigan versus Ohio State inside the stands. That's what I sounded like, and it was amazing. I fixed it though.
Nice. Well, with that, you have that coming up tomorrow. And what about you other two gents? Anything going on?
Hanging around on Veterans Talk, trying not to say anything that would cause me to lose my job at the current moment. So that'll be interesting.
Oh, then you're gonna love the topics that we have coming up on VTW. In 40 minutes, we'll be going back live. Our wonderful Triglavian princess out there has quite the topic that she's been dealing with on Twitter that we're going to touch on. And yes, it is also leading into a show that I have going on tomorrow night. 8:30. Yeah. Tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Our very own You Wished is finally getting to debate someone.
What? Who's he debating?
Red's rhetoric about guns.
About guns? Wait, who's on what side?
You Wished has the notion that because Biden won, a lot of constitutional rights, starting with limitations on the Second Amendment, are going to be starting, and Red's pretty much said, "Okay, motherfucker, prove it."
Oh, so So I've done a little bit of research into this, and You Wish, I'm sorry, but you're not right. What's going to end up happening is they're going to enforce rules that were never enforced. It's not new rules. They're not adding anything. What they're going to do is there's a lot of inability to enforce certain rules that are mandated across, both federally and within the states. And while I disagree with this, I also do agree with it. Like as a responsible gun owner, you should have something that sets you apart from an irresponsible gun owner. And if you don't have someone to enforce the rules, then the irresponsible gun owners are just as protected by the Second Amendment by the responsible gun owners, which was never the point of the Second Amendment. So if it's different to say that they're going to enforce the current rules and ensure that, that protecting people is of the utmost importance in regards to gun safety. But at the same time, they're not going to come through and this is not the Australian buyback we're about to face. This is not anything similar to that at all.
Now, we will see what he has to offer up in defense of his position tomorrow night. And another topic that we have coming up that this is the one I'm really intrigued on for this. So apparently, for those who don't know, Weibo Jones, if you don't know of her and you're not already subscribed to her, you need to fix that.
That's a failure on your part entirely.
But she tweeted out a question about 15 minutes ago. More a statement. And I'm interested to delve into this a little more, so you might want to stick around for this one, team. Who you choose as a player in Mario Kart says a lot about who you are as a person.
Don't tell me fucking picking Princess Peach is a bad thing. If you fucking tell me that, we'll have fucking issues. I'll whip out the N64 right now, beat your ass with Princess Peach. Say something to me.
Well,
Koopa Troopa will beat her every time.
Well, we are going to be diving into that as well, and who knows what else we're going to come up with. And while yes, the title and description of VTW is currently referencing the never-ending counting that is taking place, and while it has been reported that Biden has won the election, he is the president-elect at this point by many reporting agencies. Let's be honest.
I'll tell you like this. I'm not prepared to accept anything right now as an American citizen. There have been so many reports of fucked up shit going on that I want everything to settle with a clear winner before I accept either candidate as the president-elect of my country.
Well, I would caveat, team, I 100% agree with you, but I would caveat that with, along with questioning the current results, is required some form of evidence.
Oh, yeah. Yes. No. Yeah, I am indifferent. I'm a centrist. I'm indifferent. I give a shit less. Here's my thing. And Thunderfoot, I got to give credit where credit is due. Okay. Thunderfoot made the most appropriate statement yet. I am fundamentally against communism. Fundamentally. I don't think Biden's a communist, but I don't think Biden's going to remain a president for 4 years. I truly believe that the Democratic Party will find a way to get him out and bring Kamala Harris in. Kamala Harris doesn't identify as a communist, but she's toting the line. She's getting really, really close to advocating for classless society. This is where you overtax the rich and you boost up the poor. Now, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that as long as we maintain an equal opportunity, as long as it's maintained to be equal opportunity. I don't have a problem with taking people who are in a bad socioeconomic status and trying to help them get out of that. Because as we all know, your socioeconomic status, if you don't make ways for your children to get out of that class, your children will be in that class. It's unfair to them. Now, not a lot of people are educated enough to understand these concepts. They all want for themselves what they want for them children, and that's the wrong way to look at it. Equality of opportunity allows for the best person for the job to get the job, and that will ultimately be the best thing for America. Now, so I'm okay with helping people get out of the socioeconomic class that they're in, and I'm okay with evaluating ways to do that. But what I'm not okay with is putting Joe Biden in for just so he can be a puppet until they're able to get him out and put Kamala Harris in, because Kamala Harris would not have won the popular vote at all.
No, and she didn't even have a fighting chance in the primary. When you really look at it. And that's where Fred Knotts, we are going to get into a bit of that both on VTW and a little bit further, because I agree with you, team. There's a smell here that I would like to find out where it's coming from. I have been very vocal that I did not support either major party candidate in this election, nor 4 years ago either. And that if I can't trust the politician to put their own shit aside enough to do something for the greater good, then you're never going to get my vote ever. Ever.
So ultimately, this is what Thunderfoot said, because Thunderfoot's he doesn't like SJWs. I hate SJWs. I hate people that are like, but my feelings hurt. Okay, and grow the fuck up. Who cares? You'll be okay. I promise you'll be okay. So, but here's the thing. Thunderfoot doesn't, at least from my perspective on Thunderfoot's videos, he doesn't really appeal to the SJWs. So here's the thing. If we get Biden in, we're probably going to have 4 years of extremely sensitive SJWs. If we get Trump in, we're going to have 4 years of additional Americans losing their lives due to the ignorance, the scientific ignorance, the political ignorance, the ethical ignorance of the incumbent, Donald Trump. So if you ask me which one would I prefer, Would I prefer a little bit more sensitivity in the public, or would I prefer more Americans dying? I'm taking an oversensitive public every single fucking time. And that's the truth of the matter. We need a better candidate. We need a better political system. We need to get rid of the electoral colleges, or at least set it to where an entire state doesn't vote one way. Because if you go and you look at these states, all right, and it's almost in every fucking state, you look at the populated areas of the state where the population densities are, they vote blue. You look where the population spread out, they vote red. So the electoral colleges, you could have a difference of fucking, let's say 1,000 votes, right, for one candidate versus another. Well, just because that one candidate gets 1,000 votes, the entire state votes that way. That's inappropriate.
So, Tim, what you're saying is they should go, the states in the District of Columbia should go in a way of, I don't know, Nebraska and Maine, where you vote on the congressional district, and then the 2 Senate seats are up to the popular vote of the state itself at large.
Like for one instance, let me just pull this up. I want to give you a good, because I don't like just sit back and make up all these fucked up opinions about shit just based on a whim, right? I go and I evaluate shit. Let's look at fucking Florida. Florida has 270,000 votes more for Donald Trump out of 10 million. Okay, we're talking about a difference of 2%, 3%. I'm sorry, 3%. All right. The entire state of Florida and all 29 electoral votes go to Donald Trump over a 3% difference. That's not right. I'm sorry, but that's not fucking right. And that needs to change. It was different when we were dealing with like 5 million total Americans in the entire fucking United States, and they were all pretty much located on the East Coast. It was a different time then, and I agree, it worked then. But
Tim,
now we're talking about 2020.
I'm going to have to invite you onto my channel where we could discuss the Electoral College, because I agree there are aspects of it that need tweaking, but I don't think it's the wrong choice for how we elect the president.
No. Electoral colleges are right. There's a reason why an electoral college is necessary. Can anybody tell me why?
It equates
No. One option. There's one thing that can happen that the electoral college is responsible for keeping from happening. What is that? It's the entire reason the electoral college was really put together.
To prevent a stupid populace from electing someone that they shouldn't?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. It's to prevent a demagogue from becoming a national leader. We cannot allow the population to vote for D's nuts to be the president, because D's nuts wouldn't be a good president no matter how bad the fucking ignorant population wants them to be. So
because when you let the internet decide, you get something called Bodie McBoatface.
Bodie McBoatface for president. Team Skeptic for president. Kanye West for president. You know?
Bodie McBoatface is awesome. He's constantly in live chats, and he's an amazing person to interact with. How dare you sully that name, Furball?
I'd vote for Bodie before I'd vote for either Trump or Biden.
Tim, I think you and I should run in 2024.
I've been joking about it. I've been joking about it, but I would honestly get behind a candidate I believe in, and I would promote that candidate using my platform. I like what fucking Andrew Yang says. You know, when I spoke about how my feelings are towards this country and the direction we're going, people would tell me, "Hey, go look at Andrew Yang because you're talking exactly what he's saying." And yes, he's a socialist. And I don't like that term because that's pretty much working your way towards communism. But the ultimate thing is you do have to have a lot of socialism in a country like ours, especially to run properly and to be efficient.
I'd vote for that ticket. Bullionator.
Yeah.
Crane Bullionator 2024. I would vote for that ticket.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, we can definitely have this conversation further on the more appropriate stream for it. And again, I'm hungry, motherfuckers. You're stopping me from eating right now.
Fuck you guys. I love everybody. Y'all have a good night. I'll try to make it tonight, but I got to rest my voice for tomorrow, but I'll try to make it tonight.
Hey, it's going to be the same. It's the same link. So if you want to pop back in when we're live again, feel free. Until then,
same link. Okay,
same link. We will see you all in about 20 minutes. Well, 25 minutes at this point. See you soon.